There has never been a better time than now to come join the Bellisio Foods team. Bellisio has a new contract in place with plenty of awesome perks for their employees. From increased wages, access to the free health clinic, vacation after 6 months, and much more, Bellisio Foods is committed to putting their employees first. For more information or to apply, visit BellisioFoods.com/careers. Take advantage of these great new employee benefits and join the Bellisio team today. Visit BellisioFoods.com/careers to learn more. Never have our community heroes been more worthy of recognition than today, and Wendy's is here to show thanks for all they do with a free breakfast for a year giveaway. Starting Monday, November 15th through December 9th, we want you to nominate the individuals you feel have gone above and beyond. Just go to yourtotalmedia.com/communityheroes and give us a line or two about why someone you know deserves free Wendy's breakfast for a year as part of Wendy's Thank You Thursdays campaign throughout this holiday season. That's right, our community heroes have the opportunity to win free breakfast for a year from Wendy's, which includes a delicious breakfast combo. We'll select a community hero every week on Thursday, and you'll hear their inspiring stories on the air. You can nominate anyone who's made an impact in our community. Wendy's wants to reward our dedicated and hardworking individuals because these heroes have kept our communities together and running. Make your nomination today at yourtotalmedia.com/communityheroes, and Wendy's will be providing free breakfast for a year to those deserving individuals.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the morning show. No, it is not Monday. You may be confused because our good friend Pete Wilson is here, but it is Tuesday.
Right. Okay.
And you are
here. You should
here.
have a calendar in here to make sure we keep that straight.
No worries, because Pete had a meeting to go to yesterday, so
we didn't even have it, by the way.
Oh.
Because of internet problems.
There was an internet issue, wasn't it? Yes.
Right.
Because we had to deal with
the
that
day
here.
the earth stood still.
It's pretty sad when you can't do anything now if you don't have the internet, huh?
I tell you what, we are dependent on it, aren't we?
We are, for sure. But the good news is Pete is here today to do the morning news update. Of course, that's always brought to you by Nia Henry, agent for Appalachia Realty. And if you're looking to buy or sell or have any real estate needs, call Nia, 740-418-4135. And she says she'll work hard for you, and I believe it.
Okay.
So.
Without a doubt. We don't exaggerate when we talk about Nia working hard, do we?
Definitely not.
Absolutely not.
So how you doing, Pete Wilson?
I'm doing very well. Just heading into the Christmas season here, and our news stack here, we've got some Christmas-related news, things that have happened, things that are going to happen. Very busy this time of year. And all those things, practically all those things are very good things. The best sides of people come out at the Christmas season for sure. And however, the life goes on, and there's some other things going on that aren't so pleasant. And it's our job to tell you about it and give you the lowdown. And we're going to start with a murder trial that was supposed to start yesterday in Jackson County Common Pleas Court.
Okay.
Everybody showed up. They were ready to go. But when it was about ready to start, the defendant, Lisa Sheets, who is age 58 of State Route 140 Wheelersburg, decided to plead guilty to all the counts instead of going on trial. And it was scheduled to be, a 2-week trial starting yesterday and going through, they expected December 23rd, which is a week from this Thursday. But she pled guilty to 3 counts, and as it turned out, she was sentenced to life in prison. And we've talked about this case before, but of course, time gets strung out there.
Right.
We may have forgotten about it, but this involves the deaths of 2 individuals in the Oak Hill area from a incident or incidences that took place on October 30th, 2020. Left 2 individuals dead. The first death was David Yelly, age 61 of Dark Hollow Road in the Oak Hill area. At the same time, earlier in the same day, another individual by the name of Paul Sheets, age 51 of Ohio Avenue in Oak Hill, he was also a victim.
They were different places, weren't they?
Paul Sheets, age 51, was brutally attacked. He survived. However, 48-year-old Tabitha Sheets did not. she was in the hospital for a while and she ended up dying. And so,
That's right.
that case became a double murder case. Mr. Yelly was found dead that same night. So 2 persons died, another person violently attacked. And Lonnie Sheets, who is related to Lisa Sheets, not married but related, Lonnie has already been convicted and sentenced. Lisa was an alleged accessory to those crimes. And she was accused of aiding in the commission of the crimes by washing her and Lonnie's clothes, lying about what happened, and disposing of the firearm. She was also accused of acquiring the firearm and the ammunition, driving to the scene, and then fleeing in the car afterwards. It was the other defendant who was charged with actually committing the murders, but her actions, according to the authorities and now the criminal justice system, made her almost as liable as the man. So yesterday, for whatever reason, she chose to plead guilty to all those charges. And well, the only thing is, this was not in our news story, but Phil Buffington, who does such a great job covering the courts for us, he had seen on the court records that just before the trial was to start, the defense made a motion to suppress some of the evidence in the case, a statement that Lisa had made to authorities when it was being investigated. And they tried to suppress this statement, which obviously was, I assume, incriminating. And the court would not do that. And so that piece of evidence was going to be presented. And that evidence was a statement that she had made probably about what happened and her involvement in the crimes. So they didn't get that suppressed, and as a result, she pled. A lot of times, sometimes, if they think they have you and you don't plead guilty, it can be worse. If you fight it and you go through court, the sentence can go forth there. They're not willing to, quote, make a deal with lesser charges or whatever.
I guess what I'm thinking is, what's worse than life in prison?
Well,
go for it.
She is eligible for parole after 15 years.
There you go.
But the sentence is life in prison, and this apparently did have the support of the victims' families, because a lot of times, they're asked what they think should happen as well. Their wishes are at least taken into account. But she does have the possibility of parole after 15 years. She was represented by Portsmouth-based attorney Richard Nash Jr. The prosecution was handled by Special Prosecutor Christopher Neisler and also Assistant Jackson County Prosecutor Colleen Williams. Lonnie Sheets, who was the male defendant in this, who has already been sentenced, he was sentenced back on May 28th to life in prison. So that case finally over. The 2 defendants both sentenced to life in prison for the deaths of the 2 individuals in Oak Hill and just outside Oak Hill at separate places. All right. I wish we could not have to come back around to this, but we need to. The COVID-19 update. First of all, we'll switch the spotlight to Columbus, where over the weekend, the Ohio Department of Health announced the first 2 confirmed cases of the Omicron variant in Ohio.
We'd avoided it for a little while.
We did.
Well, we think. We don't know for sure.
When the first cases came out, I think the first ones were in California. And then, on the national news, they showed the maps, and then each state got colored in pretty quick. And Ohio was towards the end. But there were 2 cases. They were in central Ohio. They did not, of course, identify the victims or where they lived or whatever. However, 2 interesting things. Neither one of them had done any international travel. So it wasn't, they brought it from foreign soil where, it's been first, particularly in Africa. Southern Africa is where it apparently originated, or at least where it was first reported. And then the other thing, both of those men were vaccinated. Now, they had not had their booster yet, or they weren't scheduled to have their booster yet. But still, I find it interesting that so many people who are vaccinated are coming down with it. Now, of course, we can't say enough, and I know we hear different things from the health experts, and we hear different analyses, from news commentators and so forth. But everybody seems to be in agreement that if you do have the vaccine and you do have COVID-19, it will be a milder case.
Yeah, I think that, what they're praying is it just keeps people out of the hospital and from dying instead of, you can all get through a lot of sickness and it sucks, but the dying part of it and the hospitalizations is, I think, what they're trying to prevent for the most part.
Right. And so, the Omicron variant was probably already here before these two cases were confirmed.
I'm sure.
So, however, in the news release that the Ohio Department of Health put out over the weekend, the health experts, Dr. Vanderhoff, who is the Ohio Department of Health director, he said that the cases in Ohio, which are still occurring, are being driven by the Delta variant. Because
I think this Delta one's the one that's just nailing everybody.
Yeah, you have the original COVID-19, and then you have the Delta variant. The Delta variant is driving the cases now in Ohio, including some hospitalizations as well. As of yesterday, he reported at the time that this news release came out, there were 4,422 patients in the hospital with COVID-19.
Wow, that seems like a lot.
When we keep repeating to try to be balanced and not, sound sensational or too worried or be accused of fear-mongering, there are still people dying and still people in the hospital, a lot of them, even though there are also a lot of mild cases as well. And the early word on the Omicron is that a lot of cases seem to be very mild so far.
Well, they're mild, or I know a lot of the cases they're saying are asymptomatic, which is interesting.
Right. And what we said, too, about the vaccinations and the mitigating effect they may have on cases, the Ohio Department of Health news release also said that of the 4,422 cases in the hospital, the great majority are unvaccinated persons. So there's, some more statistical evidence.
Well, to be honest, that's good to hear. I mean, you start hearing that, half or 60% are vaccinated, then we all need to start worrying about it.
Right. And
because that means it's not doing its job.
Whether it's old COVID, Delta, or Omicron, the guidelines about protecting yourself and others are still the same.
Sure.
The variant isn't that important because, you're sick or you're infected either way. Testing, of course, is important now when you have some symptoms, of course, both through your own good and others.
Yep.
And, of course, the vaccinations, so much publicity about the vaccinations when they were available. They are still available all over the place.
That's right.
The place to start on your inquiries, of course, are our local health departments here in Jackson County and in Vinton County. The vaccines are still out there. Now, the latest reports that we got from our local health departments, and this just here was in the last day, so they're very, very relevant. We're rolling into Christmas. We have all these events. And even though, Jennifer, you go to the places and like, for instance, the big box stores or whatever, it may have strongly recommended you wear a mask. But what do you see when you go in these places?
Nobody wearing a mask.
Almost nobody wearing a mask. I'd say 5 to 10% tops.
Yep.
So the truth is, however you want to interpret it or whatever you want to do about it or not do about it, there are still a lot of cases happening. In Jackson County, they didn't do a report the week before, but just yesterday, in the 2-week period from November 29th through December 12th, and December 12th being, of course, last Sunday, 295 new cases in Jackson County.
Wow.
And, you're thinking, we've made it through this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we know we haven't because we keep hearing about it, but it's still there. 295 cases, 5 new COVID-19 related deaths the past 2 weeks. So, when you're reading the obituaries in the paper, look at them online or whatever, they often don't say, of course, what the cause of death is.
Right.
And, you wonder who might have had COVID and who didn't. They say that it still affects older people more. It could be more serious with older people, but we know firsthand from our own experience that it can affect younger people and kill younger people.
Yes, it can.
But there were 14 active hospitalizations right now, and we had 5 deaths in the last 2 weeks. And now, with those 5 new deaths, we have had 101 confirmed COVID-19 related deaths in Jackson County.
Yikes.
And that is probably on the low side.
I'd say that's on the low side. And, you think about all the people that, have had it and don't get diagnosed also. I mean, the numbers are way higher than what, you know, a lot of times a husband or a wife gets it, and then the other spouse or, you know, people in the household don't go get tested because they just figure, what the heck, you know.
Right, exactly. And in Vinton County, a similar news. Now, this report covers just 1 week, but it also indicates maybe an increase in cases. The Vinton County Health Department for the last week, and this report came out on Monday, 52 new active cases in Vinton County. That compares with 45 the previous 1 week period.
And we were having times when Vinton didn't have any.
Right. And
if
also,
you remember.
Also 3 new related COVID-19 deaths in Jackson County. Remember, Vinton County, approximately, Jackson County has 2.5 times the population there. So you can kind of maybe do the quick math there. So Vinton County, maybe even a little bit harder hit proportionally. Just last week, 45 active cases in Vinton County. Now 52 this week. The death toll in Vinton County is now up to 44. 4 people right now, as of Monday at least, in the hospital with a COVID illness. There may be other illnesses wrapped up in that, but they have been diagnosed with having COVID and are in the hospital. So we will keeping an eye on that. When I was here on, was it Thursday, Jennifer? When we were talking about the lockdown at Vinton County and the threat was up there.
Yes.
I know that we were able to say towards the end of your show on Thursday that the lockdown was ended, the threat was over. There really was no threat. It turned out to be a fabrication, and there was a suspect or a person who had made the call that was being interviewed, and they're certainly looked incriminating. Well, we can follow up on that a little bit. The suspect who has been arrested and charges are being considered. If charges have been filed, I've not heard about that yet, but they're certainly being considered, and this person is incarcerated. The name is Lonnie Mace Jr., age 39, of MacArthur, and according to a report from the Vinton County Sheriff's Office and from Vinton County Local Superintendent Rick Brooks, Lonnie Mace Jr. confessed that he made a call, said that a student, a non-family member, that a student was packing a gun and meant to do harm, and he admitted that that it was over a family dispute where he was just trying to apparently get back at this family.
I was going to say, it sounded like he was trying to get someone in trouble.
Right. To make it clear, the student who was accused of maybe bringing a gun to school and planning to do something with it did not have a gun.
Allegedly, yes.
And there was nothing going on. I mean, no basis for that at all.
Right.
And they supposedly have a confession on that.
Oh, boy.
The prosecutor in Vinton County is Jim Payne. He will have the job of determining what charge there should be.
I'm just going to tell you, that's just not cool at all. That's just my opinion.
Right. And
don't do that. There's so much involved in that.
But when it happens, and just after what happened with the Oakland schools in Michigan,
correct.
I mean, it's just wrong
in so many levels
to scare people like that. And the schools are, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You don't want to. You have to respond as if it is a real threat.
Listen, I think this Michigan thing is a good example of that. They had all kind of warning signs, and nobody seemed to act on them.
Right, and there's so many times
you just have to.
There's so many times where there's discipline issues in the school, and here's the one thing about it, and this has to do not just with gun threats or anything. Saying something and making a threat is a long way from doing something.
Correct.
But it's out there, though, that it's a possibility.
And the response is the same.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still locking down the school. We're still terrifying everybody. We're still, freaking people out and parents and shutting down lives for a couple of hours. And, you can't do that.
No, you
not
can't.
Okay.
But in this case, I guess there was a good ending in that, when a threat like that is made, or the report of a threat like is made, even though it passes and, they can't find that there is a real threat or they can't find a gun or a bomb or whatever it might be,
Right.
it's still unsettling because you don't know
100%.
where it came from, or you don't know that it might be real the next time, or somebody might do it again. In
Or
this
it gives
case,
somebody an idea.
in this case in Vinton County, they solved all that.
Yes.
And they were able to do it really within an hour
Yeah, it
as
was
far
quick.
as identifying who made the call and who the student was who may be packing a gun.
He didn't hide it very well.
And they
evidently.
were able to do an interview and then make a subsequent arrest all within that same day, actually within a period of hours. So congratulations to the Vinton County local
That's right.
schools, to the Vinton County Sheriff's Office for how they were able to handle the thing. I want to give props to Superintendent Rick Brooks. I worked with him on Thursday morning it was, to try to get information out on this because, as a newsman, I want to get something out quick. I don't want to say, well, it says on Facebook,
Right.
because so many times,
Yes.
but it's out there. It's out there in the public, so you kind of have to respond to it. You want to be able to say what is correct and just not repeat something that may not be right, even though you
That you
say,
heard.
well, allegedly or reportedly, this was posted. But it's out there. And he realizes that too. And so he said what he could to me so we could get something out, on our various media platforms, so I could say something on television. And the sheriff's office initially would not talk to me, but shortly after I asked for something, they did come out and put something
Good.
out to where everybody could see it. So we appreciate that as well. And there's no rule that they have to do that. But I think that it's in the public interest.
Well, it
it's
is
certainly
definitely in
in
the
our
public
interest,
interest, yeah.
as information givers and news people. But the way that it turned out, I guess, was good. If something like that has to happen.
Yes.
But we understand that after the Oakland thing, in that area particularly, lots of copycat threats.
It
made
happens,
as a result.
unfortunately. Yep.
Right. Okay. Well, turning now to another news story. This happening a little bit below the surface, but we can talk about it. The city of Jackson is negotiating with the Teamsters Union that represents the unionized officers and dispatchers of the Jackson Police Department.
Okay.
And a 3-year contract that they had actually expired it actually expired, let me look at my notes here. It actually expired back in 2020, September 2020. And they have worked under the terms of that contract where they're trying to, settle or trying to resolve a new contract, which would probably be for 3 years as well. Well, we're already into almost the end of 2021, and they have not been able to settle on a contract. And it is going now to what they call is a conciliator, which amounts to, this may not be a technically correct term, but it amounts to this, binding arbitration.
Okay.
Where this conciliator, who works for the State Employment Relations Board, that's the state arm that works with public labor issues, that person, male or female, will decide which side is right. It won't be a compromise. The conciliator won't say, well, I like this part, I like this part, this is what we're going to do. They will look at the city's proposal, they will look at the Teamsters Union proposal, and they will go either or. And so it's in the hands of the conciliator, or it soon will be once the proposals are given to the conciliator. They went through what they called a fact finder. They just been through that, and it was unresolved. Under the fact finder, it's not binding. The fact finder listens to what the city says, what they think the terms of the contract ought to be. They listen to what the union says, and then the fact finder comes up with, I think this is good, or even comes up with their own solution that could be
Okay.
middle ground. In this case, according to Jackson Mayor Randy Evans, some of the things the city wanted, the fact finder wanted, but some of the things the union wanted, the fact finder wanted. So then
Kind of
they
a compromise, if you will.
Right. So you thought, well, that might solve it. Both sides have to agree with what the fact finder is, and you're not getting everything you want when the fact finder says this, and it's not binding. Well, the city council, I'm guessing on the recommendation of the administration, Mayor Randy Evans, Service Director David Swackhammer, said we'll go along with the fact finder. The union would not. So it goes to the conciliator. I talked with Mayor Evans. Of course, the actual terms of the contract, shouldn't be negotiated publicly or whatever. But the big issue does appear to be wages. I talked with the union steward, Sergeant Richie Kaiser of the Jackson Police Department, and they feel that since the income tax was passed in the 2020 general election, there should be money available for the wages that they are seeking for what is now a reduced police department, of
Gotcha.
course.
Yes.
Fewer officers than
Definitely.
than there were before. And so what those figures are, I can't say, and I shouldn't know, because this is a negotiation between the parties that's supposed to be private, at least at this case. The fact they're negotiating isn't the fact that they can't settle a contract. That isn't private, but what they're negotiating is between them. And so that's where that stands right now.
Okay. Hey, Pete, by the way, I'm glad you mentioned that because I wanted to give a shout out to the Jackson Police Department. We, several of the officers were in eating lunch the other day, and there was a medical emergency at the table next to them. And immediately they jumped up and took charge of the entire situation. Communicated with the ambulance service and all of that. And, I asked if I needed to do anything. They had it all under control. They were monitoring the person. And I just thought that was so kind of them. Didn't even get to eat their lunch. They had to take it with them. And so anyway, I want to give a shout out to them because, that's some scary stuff. And they just jumped up and all of them and took care of the situation. And had they not been there, I don't know.
Right. Well,
what would have happened. So yeah, I wanted to give them all a shout out and thank you. And I know as police officers, they just think that's their job, but they also deserve thanks for that as well.
Absolutely. And I'm sure off duty, maybe at the time they were in there.
No,
Or
they
lunch?
were.
It was lunch.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
lunchtime, and they were, I think, on duty. But so they definitely
Okay.
were on duty. That's
Well,
for sure.
At last night's Jackson City Council meeting,
Thanks, guys.
Interim Police Chief Brent Hinch, he has been going to the meetings and talking about the police department and what the officers are doing and the direction that they're doing and what they're trying to do with the reduced force. And they're not up even to the complement of officers that the administration is allowing for.
Correct.
Because even though the income tax was passed, it secured a certain number of officers that is still less or
Than
fewer
what they're
officers
working
than what they
with.
were 3 or 4 years ago.
For sure.
But because there are fewer officer spots now in this new structure, and because there were some retirements and some people just left and went to other law enforcement agencies,
Correct.
and the process is so long to get a trained person in, and not everybody wants to be a police officer anymore.
No, I mean,
So it's a tough job. So they are not
is
up to
tough.
the number. I think they're either 1 or 2 officers short, and it's been kind of a long process to get there. But anyway, what Sergeant Hinch talked about, just to give the council and the administration and the public through the media a picture of some of the things they do. You talked about what happened at the restaurant.
yeah.
Well, one of the officers, Officer Witt, who is a sergeant, he was just promoted to sergeant, he did a well-being check. And Sergeant Hinch told me that they're many times asked to do well-being checks, and it's hard to do them
Sure.
all because there's only so many things, only so much time to go do this, and it's things that probably families ought to do or whatever. So they have to kind of sometimes pick and choose and decide on their experience and what they hear whether there might be an emergency. Well, they got a well-being check. There was a well-being check that was requested here in town several weeks ago. An elderly lady. Sergeant Witt heard what the request was and felt that this one should be checked out.
Okay.
And his intuition and instincts were right. The female had passed out, was alone, and nobody knew for sure what had happened. She was taken to the hospital, and I'm not sure whether she's been released yet or not, but she is definitely recovering. And the thought was, no names or anything, that's not the important thing. The thought was that lady would have died without that well-being
Wow.
check. And that's a routine thing that the police do, but it can be so important.
Absolutely.
Right. So that was an example. Also, the night that they had the Christmas parade and the fireworks and whatever there on Saturday, December the 4th. Of course, the extra officers were out to provide security and have a presence there because there were a lot of people out. It turned out to be a great night, as you know.
Sure.
Great weather, a lot of people out.
It was
a lot of things could be
wonderful.
happening, good and bad. Well, while all those festivities were going on, there was another person, we won't mention their name, and I don't know it anyway. They had stopped at Speedway, ran in there, and then, that's just right next to where all the activity is going on.
Right.
Well, that person went in Speedway while everybody was there at Manpower Park, and while they were in Speedway, they left their car running, and somebody decided to take off in that car. Right. When you leave
You're
your
kidding.
vehicle running outside, I know you do it for different reasons.
Hey,
Get the-
listen, we've all been guilty of doing
Get the
it.
frost off the windshield
Yep.
or whatever. You just don't want to turn it off, or you think you're only going to be in a store for a minute or something.
No one will steal my car.
Well, at Speedway, let's be honest, it's not like somebody isn't going to see you do that.
Well-
but if somebody sees you get in the car and take off, how do they know whether it's not your
they
car?
don't.
Right. So, but anyway, the good news is there was a cell phone in the car, and they were able to track where that person was that was running. They were able to recover the vehicle, although there was slight damage there never was a chase. They just were able to track where that vehicle was.
Gotcha.
But they were that same night able to find the vehicle, apprehend the suspect, all that same night. And it was because they knew what to do, and they were working that
Sure.
night. Extra officers were on hand, and there they go. Sergeant Hitt said another interesting thing that I didn't know. The drug of choice, one of the drugs of choices all over is methamphetamine.
Yes.
All right. And remember, we had all the publicity, and we still hear about them every now and then, but maybe not as much about the meth labs. And so the supposition may be, well, gosh, these meth labs are busy. Most of the methamphetamine now, almost all of it, is being imported. Now, get this.
Oh.
The reason there was lots of methamphetamine is, I guess it's not that hard to make, and that way you don't have to buy it. There is so much methamphetamine coming into our country now that you can get it cheaper and more readily that way through the black market than you can by producing it yourself.
Making it yourself.
Which can
Wow.
be a little bit of work and be dangerous as well. And the other thing is the second drug of choice is very dangerous, and that's fentanyl. This is just not a big city thing.
You're exactly right. I was talking with somebody the other day, and we got into that discussion, and she was just saying that, listen, we've all talked about, going and getting like roofied at a bar or something like that, where somebody gives you like the date rape drug. Well, now there's sickos out there sticking fentanyl places.
Right.
So if you are out and about, just be very aware of your situation and who you're talking to, and never set your drink down or anything like that, because that's a thing now, I guess. She was telling me, I didn't know that was a thing, but evidently that's a thing.
Right. You
And
do.
it can kill you just like that.
Fentanyl,
Just a pin
very
drop
dangerous.
of it.
I remember having a discussion with Sheriff Ted Frazier, and this wasn't all that long ago. And, time passes quicker than you think, but maybe 2 or 3 years ago, at the very most, you heard about fentanyl presence in some nearby counties. And he said, as far as I know, knock on wood, we don't have any cases here in Jackson County. We don't believe it's here, or if it is, we haven't seen evidence of it. Well, now it's very common.
It's
and that
very
isn't because
prevalent.
there isn't efforts or knowledge by law enforcement personnel. It's just there. And so methamphetamine and fentanyl, more than heroin, and now more than the opiates. But all of the drugs are still remain a problem.
Absolutely.
You don't hear about them as much because you get numb to it, and now we've had the COVID thing and everything else. But that is still out there too. What you also hear, and I don't know whether they can say it now because there's been these COVID-related deaths. In the early days of COVID, they said, well, we're talking about COVID. Do you realize more people are dying from overdoses
Sure.
than they are from COVID? I don't think that's the case anymore, but still there are a lot of overdose.
A lot of it.
A lot of overdose deaths, and others saved because law enforcement personnel or even a civilian has Narcan.
Yep.
All right. But that's another story. Wellston City Board of Education met last night, Jennifer.
Okay.
And I guess one of the big things there, a lot of nice things happened there. But one of the things that we definitely want to mention, because this was probably the last regularly school board meeting of the calendar year 2021. It was the last meeting for 2 outgoing board members, as when the new year comes, it's new terms for several of those board members. Gretchen Crabtree has served on the Wellston City Board of Education for 16 years. She's been involved in the schools, she says, for 50 years. As a student,
Wow.
as a teacher, as a volunteer. I know she helped with the plays, even when she was a school board member. This was her last meeting. She chose not to run for reelection. Jennifer Pittman also was recognized. She has served 4 years on the board. She was not reelected in the last election.
Okay.
But both of those members, Gretchen Crabtree and Jennifer Pittman, were recognized for their service to the Wellston City Board of Education. And we'll talk about some of the other outgoing school board members and council members and whatever who will be ending
Sure.
their terms as well as we reach the end of the year. Last night at the, speaking of transition, at the Jackson City Council meeting, we'll be having a story on this. Councilwoman Debbie Biggs, who has represented the 3rd Ward, she was elected in 2019. She was reelected to another term in 2021 to start next year. However, she turned in her letter of resignation. It was acknowledged at last night's city council meeting. She has or will be moving out of the area. That's the reason for her resignation. And so now, since Debbie was a Republican, I take it that the Jackson City Caucus of the Jackson County Republican Party's Republican Committee will have to meet and pick her replacement. And it will have to be a Republican and a person that lives in the 3rd Ward of the city. So that was one of the news stories coming out of Jackson City Council. A number of other ones as well. One of the things we want to mention, we'll give you maybe more details in a future meeting, but this is a big thing that has occurred very slowly over a period of time. The city of Jackson, 30 or 40 years ago, got involved and bought a railroad. They call it their short line railroad, but
Okay.
it's many of these tracks that you see in town, because you see some trains operating. They own track not only in Jackson, but in Jackson County, a little bit in Lawrence County, up into Vinton County, and even over into Ross County.
Right.
33 miles of line, if I'm not. So what is Jackson doing messing in the railroad business? That's because local industries, believe it or not, you don't hear that much about rail, but it's very important as an option.
Yes.
You have your regular vehicle freight, but then you have train and air or whatever. But you want to have choices for freight if you're a big industry and you have product to move.
Absolutely.
And so Jackson bought the short line railroad that would have been abandoned otherwise because CXX was going out of business, and of course DT&I had left, and the city has had it all that time. But they're not railroad experts, but yet they had to hire an operator, and they had problems through the years with a certain operator where there was disagreement. Now the city has a good relationship with its current short line operator, but they do the work. But the city technically owns the line, and that's a great responsibility. Well, for the last several years, well, actually, I think it might go back to more, maybe even 5 years, the city has been trying to turn over ownership of its rail to the state, and the state is represented by the Ohio Rail Commission. That is the state agency. And because they are there to promote railroad and the use of railroad, they were willing to take over the property. Otherwise, the city would probably continue. Jackson Mayor Randy Heath, his predecessor, Jackson Mayor Shane Goodman, his predecessor, Jackson Mayor Tom Evans, who bought the short line railroad way back when, they all understand the need for the rail line in the economic development, in the economic development spectrum. And so Randy Evans also agrees with that too. He's glad that they have it, but both he and Mayor Heath, his predecessor, agreed it would be better just let the state do it because they're the experts, and then the city doesn't have to worry about fixing the rail line, having the responsibility for the rail line, having the liability of the rail line, etc. So yesterday, a big step in that process, deeds were signed over by Mayor Randy Evans to the state. They still have to do some conveyance work and paperwork, but a lot of that work is done now. And very, very soon, the railroad that the city of Jackson has owned for the last several decades will become the property of the state of Ohio. So I know that may not mean a whole lot to Joe Q, but it really means a lot in the big picture to economic development.
Yep. Continue it on.
Right, exactly. Last Friday night, Jennifer, 3 new people were inducted into the Vinton County High School Athletic Hall of Fame.
That's
Red
exciting.
Thompson Jr. was there to see it. And those 3 new members are a coach, Debbie West. She has coached forever, retired now. She is on the end there. If you're looking there on your monitor, she's on the far right. She coached softball and volleyball, and softball was her big thing. She went to the district tournament, won some TVCL titles. She was coach of the year several times. She was one of the inductees. She's there on the right. The gentleman there next to her, to her right, his name is Jay Palmer, and he played in the late 80s and 90s, and he was a great basketball player, a great three-point shooter.
Cool.
His junior year is when the three-point shot came in, and that made him even a more important player because he was called a sharpshooter, a long-distance
Sure.
player. Instead of 2 points, it's 3 points when you make up from a certain distance.
Yep.
And Jay Palmer, get this, finished with 999 career points, one single point away from 1,000 points, which is kind of considered, the milestone. If you're a 1,000-point career scorer, you're one of the
Yes.
very best. But he was 999, and he is now in the Benton County High School Athletic Hall of Fame.
Well, if that 3-point line had been there the whole time, he would have been well over it.
Now, the other two folks in there are not actually in the Hall of Fame themselves. Their names are Bob Stewart and Lou Stewart. That's a husband-wife, and they accepted for their niece, Susan Epperts Gallagher, who unfortunately is deceased.
Yep.
She was an outstanding softball player at Benton County in her day, and unfortunately she was killed in a wreck several years ago, and her aunt and uncle there were there to represent her and accept her plaque for being in the Benton County High School Athletic Hall of Fame. Joe Hemsley, who is the assistant superintendent now here in the Jackson City Schools, he was her coach back when he worked at Benton County. He was football coach and softball coach up there in Benton County. He was also up there for the induction ceremony and said some very kind things about Susan.
I remember her when she was a little girl when I lifeguarded at the country club.
You do remember.
Yep,
I could
I
tell
do
that you knew
remember.
who I was talking about
Yep.
there. But, unfortunately, she passed away, but they do remember how important she was to the softball program in Benton County athletics. They actually have two induction ceremonies. This was one for last year. The one for this school year will be done on January 5th. They didn't have an induction ceremony last year because you know why. So
The
the other
Rona.
ceremony will be on January the 8th when the Jackson Ironmen are up there to play Benton County in a boys basketball game. Pre-game ceremony the pregame ceremony will take place, and there will be 3 new inductees. I do not know who they are, but they will be inducted that night as well. Actually, Saturday, January the 8th. All right. Also in Wellston, this was important for people going here and there around Wellston. They have a place called the Scenic Highway that a lot of people drive on there on the east side of Wellston. You kind of miss the traffic and go around the back end. Traffic there has been slowed down because 2 bridges needed replaced. This is a shot of the second bridge, which was just opened on Monday. So now people can freely use the Scenic Highway again.
Good.
I don't know how scenic it is. I've never
It's
been
back.
on it. Okay, but it is open now, and that is big news
Good.
for people who drive in and around Wellston because of where they live or just to get around. All right, the Oak Hill Union Local Board of Education is supposed to meet, or normally meets, on the 3rd Wednesday of each month. That would be tomorrow, Jennifer.
Okay.
However, they are going to meet instead on Monday, December the 20th, or rather, they're going to meet instead on Wednesday, December the 20th. So, no, I'm sorry, Monday, December 20th. They're going to meet on Monday, I'm sure, to get it out of the way before the
Yeah.
holidays. But they were not able to meet on the 15th for whatever reason. They're going to meet on the 20th instead.
Okay.
They meet at 5:30 p.m. at Oak Hill High School, Middle School. Now I've got a lot of fun stuff, Christmas to talk about.
Yay, fun.
Last Saturday, I was down at Jackson's Manpower Park for Santa's Reindeer Party.
Yes.
And I tell you, it rained a lot that day in the morning, but it cleared up a little bit. At least it wasn't raining. And Manpower Park, they did a drainage project down there, and you could actually, Manpower Park was not flooded. It was soggy. They couldn't get out in the grass, but you could, by God, walk under the shelter house
There
and
you
around
go.
the sidewalk where all the trees are. But Santa's Reindeer Party Cupid was there.
Yay,
and you can
Cupid.
see Cupid was there and actually drew a lot of attention. He was set up there in
I want
the
to give him a hug.
he was set well, you're not allowed to touch Cupid.
Oh,
because
no.
Unfortunately, Cupid is in the rut and he's a little touchy. So
I see.
Right, you can't so you couldn't touch
I smell
Cupid.
what you're cooking, Pete.
You couldn't touch Cupid, but Cupid was there and would seem fairly calm.
Okay.
But everybody could take a very good look, get close, have their picture taken. As you can see, there were lots of people who lined up to kind of get posed with
How
Cupid.
cute.
And Cupid was able to come and stay for several hours, even though in about a week he's going to be very busy.
He is going to be very busy. I hope he was resting up.
Right, he was. We heard that it might be Blitzen, but it was actually Cupid that came.
Well, you never know. I mean,
right. I knew it
they
wasn't
have to take
Rudolph.
turns.
No red nose, but this was Cupid. All right. Cupid weighed about 250 pounds and is on the way to being 400 pounds.
whoa.
So they take care of him. Had a very warm coat there, so I know that reindeer are okay at the North Pole. All right. But anyway, give a lot of credit to the Cultivating Our Future and Barbie McCathert.
Yes.
It was much more than just her and that group, but she was the one that coordinated it. She's also the one in that group that did the trees. By the way, 84 Christmas trees
That's
this year
awesome.
decorated. And she said could have been at least 20 more because they just ran out of space.
Yep.
They're not quite able to use all the space because there's a little bit of spacing going on because of COVID-19.
Gotcha.
They relaxed that a little bit, but they're not as close as they could be. Now, maybe next year that'll be different. But once again, 84
Fingers
trees.
crossed.
The very first year, she said, I think in the 90s, that's the record, the very first year. And in Wellston, I told you 135. So this is very popular. I know there's a lot also down at Central Memorial Park in Oak Hill as well. But at Santa's Reindeer Party, there was all sorts of things going on. They had face painting. They had balloon artists. Of course, they had the reindeer. They had free cookies and hot chocolate. Holzer was there giving away gloves, mittens, and toboggans. That day, Jennifer, if you recall, it was 63 degrees at noon. And then 6 degrees
two hours later.
Well, not quite, but by 3 o'clock, it was 42 degrees, and the wind was blowing, and I was there in my fall windbreaker.
Oh, no.
Because it was 63 degrees. So Holzer set me up with a toboggan so I could get through my assignment there.
Very good. Thank you, Holzer.
I should have worn it. It still has the tag on it. All right. So anyway, congratulations to everybody on Santa's Reindeer Party. Also, in the same park at the same time, Santa Claus was on the other end of the park meeting children.
Yes.
I
saw lots of pretty pictures.
In his new Santa house.
Yay.
Now, this is the new Santa house, and it's red, but that is not the same house that they've used for years and years. Fire Chief Dave Channel doesn't even know how old the old Santa house was. He knows at least 30 to 35 years old. Well, it was starting to rot and fall apart. I mean, they probably still could have used it. But the Firefighters Association decided to build a new Santa house. Well, they're all volunteers and they do community projects to help. They could not have done it on their own.
Right.
So they had a lot of help. A lot of sponsors came forward. And so I do want to recognize them. In addition to the Jackson Firefighters Association, there was Higgins Steel Roofing, 84 Lumber Company, West Virginia Electric, Elizabeth Flowers and Gifts, David and Kim Channel, Ron's Garage and Bob's Service Center, Terry Trish Construction, AutoZone of Jackson, Brett Reed, Pine Valley Sewing, and People's Bank. These groups supported the project in some way. Terry Trish Construction, for instance, they built it. Higgins Steel Roofing, they gave the metal siding, which will make it obviously more durable for years and years to come. It will last a lot longer,
yes.
Bob's Service Center donated space in their facility for it to be built by Terry Trish Construction.
Good, okay.
Some people gave money. Some people gave their time.
Thank you,
Some
everyone.
people gave materials that were needed. So that's the kind of thing that's sweet in a small town when people gather like that and do something. Same way with Santa's Reindeer Party, because that would not have happened if people didn't donate their time to volunteer their time to do things and to give away things or to sponsor things. For instance, McDonald's of Jackson, Wellston, Oak Hill sponsored the balloon artists. I mean, they were paid, but they wouldn't have been there unless they were paid.
Correct.
They were from out of town, and they did a wonderful job. They were very popular. But Santa's house has been stationed at Manpower since the night of the 4th, And there's still time to go.
I was gonna say.
to see. You've got the hours
I
right
do
there.
have the hours.
Go ahead and tell them when you can still go and see Santa at Santa's house.
Let's see. So you have Friday, December 17th. So this coming Friday from, they put it in military time, 5 to 7?
I think you're right on that.
Okay. Is that 1700 to 1900?
Yeah, that's
what
right.
kind of sick, twisted person did that to us? So Friday and then Saturday, December 18th from 5 to 7.
Okay, right.
And you'll have that, and then the Lions Club float will be here Sunday and Monday as well with
Right.
Santa.
Right, exactly. And the Santa Claus float for the Lions Club, you've got to kind of watch their Facebook page because it depends on the weather,
Sure.
if they're going to go out and maybe when. But I'm sure they'll be making some rounds this week in Wellston, but they're going to make it to Jackson, of course, as we know.
They are.
I know they usually go to Hamden, and I know they're going to be in Colton, I think, after Jackson. I think it might be on Tuesday that they'll
Okay.
be in Colton, and they'll stop at the big apartment complex. They'll start where they think kids will be.
That's
And
right.
so that is a big thrill, and I know we're going to have more coverage coming up on the TV and in the newspaper about the Wellston Lions Club, the Santa float, and the
Yeah.
fact that they are going to be 90 years old next year.
Yeah, I think James and I may be doing a little something, but we're not going to tell you.
You guys get to do all the fun stuff, don't you?
Maybe.
Since you're TV stars, right?
Maybe.
All right. Well, anyway, speaking of Christmas and good things, the American Legion Post 371 of Wellston is going to do. This is not the Lions. This is the Legion Post. They do a lot in the community too. That is, I'm guessing that the Legion Post 371 is the largest veterans organization in Jackson County. If it's not, someone will probably Facebook James right now
Yep.
and
Tell us.
deny that. But I believe they are. But they're doing their Christmas food box project again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think next Saturday is going to be their distribution. You can still order a food box. They think they'll have enough, even with the orders already in, to fill some more. As of Monday, they had 30 boxes remaining, and they were going to take orders as long as they were available yesterday and today.
Okay.
So I'm not sure they're still available, but they may be. So we don't want to deny you the opportunity.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
But if you can call between the hours of 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. today, you still may be able to get a food box. And of course, it's all free, and I believe you'll get it next Saturday. You'll have to pick it up. The numbers to call are 384-5673. That is the only number to call, 384-5673, to see if there is a food box available. I know that on Wednesday evening at the Post, Legion volunteers will be there, and volunteers from Wellston High School will be there. Could be basketball players, cheerleaders, National Honor Society, student council, but Wellston High School sends lots of students to help them pack the food boxes. That's a lot of the labor involved in this project, and that's always a fun thing. We're going to be covering that on
Yes.
Wednesday evening. Okay, we want to tell you about 2 decoration contests that are ongoing right now
Ooh, okay.
here in the Jackson area. Both Jaffe and the Jackson Area Chamber of Commerce are doing Christmas decoration projects. Jaffe is calling its project Light Up Jackson Christmas Display Contest. Elizabeth Flowers and Gifts are working with them on this. First, second, and third place winners will be chosen, as will be a People's Choice through Facebook. Judging will take place on 6 p.m. Wednesday, December 22nd. 3 individuals will be around to judge the displays that are submitted. So you just can't have a display. You got to let them know that you want yours to be judged. Judging on the Facebook page will be taking place as well. The awards will be announced on December 22nd at about 6 p.m. To take part, text your name, address, phone number, and a picture of your display.
Okay.
I guess this is how they're going to do it, as opposed to going around and looking at it, to the following 2 numbers. I'll repeat these twice: 577-5587, 577-5587, or 418-9028. Easy to enter, easy to participate, easy to be involved through making a choice on People's Choice.
Yeah.
The Jackson Area Chamber of Commerce, I don't think they've done it before, Jennifer, but they're doing a decorating contest too. You can pick up a card at one of the participating local businesses and visit each location for a sticker. Once you have visited the 15 businesses and your card is full, circle the business with your favorite decorations. So it is the businesses that are participating that are in this
Correct.
decoration contest. Write your name and number on the back of the card, then leave your full card at that final business that you visited, the 15th one that you visited, and you will be entered in a drawing to receive several gift cards from those businesses. And those gift cards are going to be worth over $300. So
That's
well
right.
worth your time to participate. The contest will end December 19th. To see who the participating businesses are so you know where to go and to judge the decorations, visit the Jackson Area Chamber of Commerce's Facebook page. So we have a decorating contest that involves the businesses in the public, and then we have one that's out in the public that Jaffe is doing for Christmas decorations, I guess anywhere. It could be a business or it could be a residence. And does it seem like to you, Jennifer, you're not old, but you're not a kid anymore, right? I'm old, but tell me the truth. Okay, you don't look it. But tell me the truth. Don't people decorate more than they used to? I mean, they always
Oh.
have, but it's more so.
I think so. And I think there's just, you have access to more interesting things than we used to. And, you can put more lights up because they're LED and they don't, they don't Clark Griswold it.
Right.
Have to go to nuclear power.
You never get tired of watching that movie, right?
No, not at all.
Christmas Vacation. Well, I don't like to watch the part about the cat. You probably couldn't do that today. I don't know.
Probably not. I mean, if you think back about some of the stuff that happens in some of these older movies and shows, you're like, wow, if you would do that today, you'd be in a lot of trouble.
No, I know. Okay, well, elsewhere, last Thursday, Justin Oyer over at the New Hope Recovery Center,
Yes.
they lit the W4C Hope Memorial Tree, and it's beautiful.
Oh, look how pretty that is.
With the color of purple to symbolize, the fight against addiction. People whose families have been involved with addiction, maybe they've lost a loved one, they were allowed to put an ornament on a tree to symbolize their love and belief in the cause of recovery from addiction.
Where is that, Pete?
That is at the Hope Center, which is on Mound Street behind the old Western Auto store,
Aha, okay.
which is not Western Auto anymore, by the way.
Right.
But that's the landmark, I guess.
Okay.
You can see the tree probably from Chillicothe Street.
Gotcha.
But it's very beautiful, as you can see
Very
if you're
pretty.
driving by that way. All right, I have to say this. I stopped at the Jackson County Women's Club Holiday Candy Store
Yes.
at 281 East Main Street in Jackson. We talked about that when it opened on December the 15th.
Yep.
And it was busy. It's been busy ever since. Here are four of the ladies. James took this picture for us. They are Janet Kearns. Let's see, in order: Janet Kearns, Rhea Shoup, Carol Salmons, and Barbara Brackman.
Okay.
And they are just four of the volunteers of the Women's Club. It used to be the Jackson Linus Club, and now it's the Jackson County Women's Club. But anyway, I just wanted to see that they were still in
Yeah,
operation.
are they still there?
Because they go until supplies run out or
For sure.
they hit Christmas. They've sold a lot, but they still have a lot.
Okay.
And I picked up a package of my favorite. Now, listen, I like chocolate just as much as the next person, but can you beat an orange slice?
Orange slices are pretty good.
Right.
I will say.
I got this pack for $1.64.
Oh, wow.
And I'll have to say, they made me take it free of charge.
Ah.
All right. And I meant to show it on television, but I can't do that because half of them are already gone. All right. So,
Well,
but anyway,
we won't talk about
they
that.
have a lot more than just orange slices there.
Yes.
And they have a great selection of sugar-free candy as well. But it's at 281 East Main Street. That is where Abbott Home Care used to be.
Yes.
Just a couple doors down from the Marquee, and from the other direction, a couple doors down from our old radio building, right there in that block.
Do they accept cash only? Can you pay with a card? How does that work?
It's cash or check only.
Okay.
No, they don't have the
No
credit
cards.
card
Okay.
machine in there. But this isn't just if you need a stocking stuffer or whatever. They have enough that they can do bags for a group or something like that.
Yeah.
So I see it as a great stocking stuffer thing.
For sure.
Right. So
Cute little bags.
they
for
had a
everybody.
lot in there. I was glad that I didn't have a lot of money with me. I was maybe going to get something. I just wanted to see what they had and be able to publicize the fact that they're still there. And Mary Montgomery was minding the store then, and she
Yes.
told me that they expect to go at least through Christmas.
Good.
And so that's 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's open Monday through Saturday. It's closed on Sunday.
Love that.
And so not only is it a great idea for a stocking stuffer or even a gift, Just
Well, you're supporting local
for a friend or
organizations, too.
coworker, relative, or whatever. But they use the money to sponsor scholarships
Yes.
and other community projects.
It's all for the good of our community.
Right. So you're really giving twice that way.
Correct.
All right. Also, this weekend, speaking of giving, the Ladle of Love program will be doing their Christmas dinner. It's going to be on Saturday, December the 8th. And you don't have to sign up in advance for this. They will serve it beginning at 11. It's dine-in and takeout, and they also do some delivery on people who've already signed up to be on their delivery list because they do monthly dinners anyway. But this is a special dinner in conjunction with Christmas. It will be 11:30 a.m. this Saturday, December 18th at the Good Shepherd Wesleyan Church just outside of Jackson on Chillicothe Pike. And they will serve it until the food runs out. No registration is needed to attend the event or take advantage of this. If you want to call to inquire about it, Christina Sexton Inbody is the young lady who makes this happen. She has a giving heart, a big giving heart. The number to call is 740-688-1900. She works. She may not be able to answer the phone, but believe me, she'll listen to your message. And that may be, if you have any doubts about how it works, she can answer those questions or sign you up or whatever. But you don't actually have to register to take part in that. So we made it through, Jennifer.
We did.
Everything from COVID to candy.
COVID to candy. I like it. All right, Pete, since you're here, what is your favorite Christmas movie? We'll put you on the spot.
Oh, boy. Let me think real quickly. I would say it comes down to two.
Well, I was going to say, or you can give us like your top three or something.
I'll give number one. I'll give it to It's a Wonderful Life.
That's a good one.
It's a very good one. And secondly, I'll give it to about any version of A Christmas Carol.
Uh-huh.
And there are about 5 of them.
Yeah, there's a lot.
All the way. I think I know the oldest one that I know of is 1938. But probably the best one. There's been some good ones because it's a great story by Charles Dickens. Is the 1951 with Alastair Sim.
Mm-hmm.
That you see that every now and then circulate on television, even on regular television. And then, of course, there's one George C. Scott played him. Albert Finney played him in a musical one.
Mm-hmm.
But any of the Christmas Carol ones, I'll have to put maybe at number 2.
I hear
and
you.
then at number 3, I'll put Christmas Vacation.
Okay.
It's a spoof, but it is so funny. It really hits the nail on the head about some of the about some of the funny eye-rolling things about the Christmas experience.
Yep.
And then also, although I don't watch it on the 24-hour cycle, A Christmas Story, of course, is another good one because I can identify with that kid. I never wanted the Red Ryder gun, but I can identify with it.
We've all wanted something.
I do have to correct you, Pete. The best version of A Christmas Carol is obviously the Muppets version.
The Muppets, okay. I haven't seen that one, so I couldn't throw that into the group.
Well, shoot. We'll
That's
take
the
James'
best
word
one.
for it.
So
No,
what's
watch
yours?
it.
Oh, Christmas movies?
Mhm.
Oh, gosh. I have so many favorite ones.
I know. Yeah, I had to come up with them real quick too.
I don't know how hard. I don't know what order, but I love Elf.
That is funny.
I love that movie. There's, of course, The Christmas Vacation and Christmas Story. I love Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh, that's a good one too. New or old?
Either.
The-
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, the 1947 is a classic for sure.
It is.
By new, Pete means the one that's 35 years old.
Right. That was from the 90s or whatever. But it does seem like it's still new. I'm trying to think. Then there's some random ones. Like I love Four Christmases. I think that movie is hysterical with Reese Witherspoon.
That is a good one. Another good one.
So yeah, and Vince Vaughn, Mistletoe. They get in all kind of trouble. So yeah, just some of those. There's like classics, and then there's like goofy ones too.
Right, exactly.
So you just have to pick. But ones I always have to watch are those.
Right, exactly. All right.
And probably my all-time favorite is Home Alone. I love that movie.
Okay, because that does take place.
I don't know why I forgot
that. Does take place during Christmas.
It
So
does.
you could classify that as a Christmas movie too.
Excuse me. So yeah, those are some of my favorites. And is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Mhm.
Is it?
I wouldn't. Now that I didn't consider a Christmas movie.
Okay. What do you think, James?
Of course, it's a Christmas movie.
See, I say it is. I was asking Jamie about it. He said no.
Okay.
So, see,
Don't know how it's
Well, the
It's the
timing.
constant-
It's the timing, though, isn't it, that you're making it a Christmas movie?
yeah, because it happens during a Christmas party.
Right.
So, is it a Christmas movie?
Of course.
I have a trivia question for you, and then we'll get out of here.
Okay.
Die Hard, because I have some Christmas movie trivia questions that I've saved up. So, this might confirm that it is a Christmas movie. What song plays at the end of Die Hard during the credits?
You can play the Jeopardy song all you want. I'll never get it.
Never know.
I don't remember the end credits song, but it plays "Christmas in Hollis" by Run DMC, and that's the most memorable song.
It plays Let It Snow.
Yeah.
So, is that a Christmas song
Well, sure
or a
it is.
winter song?
Sure it is. It's both.
So the debate continues.
Right. Because, families are holed up for Christmas. That's when you can sing that. I don't care. Let it snow.
Yeah, that's
We're all
true.
here together.
That's true.
All right.
Hey, before we get out of here, I want to give a
Yes.
shout out. Tomorrow, the Wellston High School Drama Club
Yes.
is going to be here to talk about their presentation of The Lion King Jr., which will be presented at the Wellston High School Cafetorium on Friday, December 17th and December 18th. So a few of the members of the Wellston Drama Club are going to be here tomorrow.
As long as Simba shows up, I'm happy.
Yeah, I think Simba and Pumbaa are going to be here.
Oh, wow. I hope maybe they'll even be in costume.
Maybe.
But, the Lion King, Disney does so many great productions.
Oh,
but,
man.
is that near the top of the list?
Oh, definitely.
And what I noticed when Charity Potter, she's the director of The Lion King Jr., it's a middle school cast. So,
That is
you don't
wild.
see that much.
No,
that's
you do
great to
not.
have those younger kids involved
Yep.
and just not being involved in bit parts in a high school play.
Yep. So good for you, kids. We'll look forward to having them here tomorrow with us.
All right. That'll be fun.
We'll ask them trivia questions too.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Pete. And thank you, James, for pushing all the right buttons. And thank you all for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. So weather's still pretty mild, honestly. And so just keep on enjoying. And we will see you right back here tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.